Welcome to everyone joining us. Here we go, getting ready for week 3. After Friday night, we'll be 1/3 of the way through the regular season. So, as always, the football season is going to fly by. This is our first Monday meeting, and we knew that there were going to be a number of conflicts between association meetings, uh, lower level games that are played on Monday night, and it just can't be helped. So that's the value in having this recorded, and we just hope that you will take the time to go through it. If you want to fast forward through some things, by all means, feel free. But the important thing is that you have the opportunity for the information. As we always do, please use the chat if you have questions. Gregor will watch that. As is our custom, we will move quickly through many of the plays that are only there for discussion or illustration purposes. We won't belabor points unless there are questions. Would like to talk a little bit about the fact that from time to time we have substitutes on our crew. And oftentimes they are at the deep wing position for whatever reason, or maybe it just sticks out more that we have a visitor at that position. When you know about that ahead of time, let's take care of our business during the week. Let's spend some time with that individual, particularly other members of the Deep Three. Let's talk them through some things. Let's have a Zoom session, whatever is expedient in terms of getting things communicated so that we are more, together as a Deep Three. Saw some things this week, looked into it, found out that we had some substitutes that in some cases got added to the game late. Well, there's not a lot you can do with that. You just make the best that you can of it. But when you can, let's be proactive and try to help our brother or sister official out that's helping us on the crew, not only for them, but for the crew and obviously for the game. Speaking of crew communication, really, really important that when you're looking at your video, that first of all, everyone is looking at the video, not just the referee. Referees should not be responsible for doing some sort of a hybrid of look at these clips. Everyone should be looking at the clips, some more than others. You're going to mark on your card that you want to look at maybe passing on a pass interference or whatever it happens to be, but you really should be going through those. Some of the clips you're probably going to go through fairly quickly. Others you're going to spend some time on. But we need to be reviewing our work, not only ours, but the other people on the crew. And if we're a high performing crew, we're providing input to other people on the crew. And again, that's not just the referee's responsibility. That's everyone on the crew. And you need to be a good giver. You also need to be a good taker, able to answer some questions, perhaps take some constructive criticism. We also need to make sure that we're preparing for the next game. And sometimes that's during the same call. Maybe it's a separate call, a different day during the week, but we need to be talking about not just what time we're going to meet and where we're going to meet, but we need to be talking about the teams and things that we think we're going to face on that particular week. The final piece of communication that I want to talk about is during the game, helping out. We have different angles on the field. So if you have information to provide, and we're going to look at a couple of clips tonight that will illustrate this, by all means, bring it in, have the conversation. You're not necessarily saying that the person has to pick up the flag unless you are certain that that's the right decision. But please come in and offer information, slow them down, talk them through it to make sure that we're where we need to be. And then the other piece that's so important is that we need to make in-game adjustments when we realize whether it's a substitute on the crew or someone else on the crew that we're not responding to a given play, or maybe it's a punt mechanics or whatever happens to be. At a break, when we have a timeout, end of a quarter, let's make in-game adjustments so that we don't continue to make mistakes that we can fix during the game that will benefit us later on. Okay, final point, as always, mechanics have to be number one in our mind. our accuracy is always going to go up if we're really, really good with mechanics. So let's make sure we take care of that. And one final item while we're doing the lead in here. I'm going to change the way that you provide clips. What I'm going to ask you to do is not to send me playlists. I'm going to ask you to send me the game, the clip number, and a brief description of what happened on that particular play. That will allow me to go to that particular game, look at it, and then begin developing playlists. I found this week that it was very cumbersome working through a lot of different um, groups to develop the playlist for tonight. So I think that'll help. It'll normalize things a little bit and make it easier for us to do a good job with illustrative clips for our given sessions. So for next week, please handle it by sending me an email with that information. All right, Gregor, let's go to the first clip. First clip is going to come from our friends at the Capital Area Association. This is going to be a long play that's going to go down the far sideline, and it's going to go all the way to the goal line pylon. Pretty standard play, read and react. Guy bounces it outside, missed tackles. Our deep wing is moving well, gets to the goal line, but look how close he is to it, and he gets wiped out. Back judge is right where he belongs on the goal line. He gets there a little bit late. We don't really make that full commitment to get to the goal line. Which we should definitely make an adjustment there so that we're not cruising, that we're sprinting to get to that spot, get stationary to make a decision. Fortunately, our deep wing was not hurt, continued with the game, but this is a career ender, not only for players, but certainly for us on the field. So it's really, really important that as we get closer and closer to the goal line deep wings, that we're angling away from the goal line so that when you get, for instance, when you get to about the 5, your movement should be back to the back edge of the white or perhaps even back to the limit line so that you can be stationary and out of harm's way. That does 2 things. First and foremost, much safer for you, but also is going to aid our accuracy. Now, this appears to be a touchdown. We don't have that great of a look at it, but it certainly would be a whole lot better for us to make it a rule. Well, I need to correct that because our short wing ends up getting forward progress at about the 4. But let's say this goes all the way to the pylon. Our accuracy in terms of determining ball location in relation to the goal line and the pylon will go up immeasurably if we are stationary goal line extended. Okay, Gregor, let's go to the West Michigan Association. We had a couple of games that were brought to my attention this week. One was part of my assignment to do video review, and that was a really, really great interstate rivalry between Granville and Davison. Davison has been to the state finals and to the semis the last few years. They have an established program. Now, in Granville, looks like they have a really, really good team. So 2 really, really good teams that went after it really hard. So even though we're not line of scrimmage people, we need to recognize, we'll point it out for our short wings, that for this formation to be legal, we need to recognize the receiver at the top as being on the line of scrimmage. Now, furthermore, if the wide receiver at the bottom of the screen moves up to the point where he is covering up the tight end, we know that by position, the tight end is ineligible. So we have to be very, very aware and use our O2O to communicate what we have for formations. All right, so what we have here, we have 2 receivers out here in the flat, and the ball is going to the second receiver. So far, no problem. That's not a problem with the defensive back on the back of the receiver, but what we need to be looking for is the blindside block that occurs between the numbers and the hash mark. Now, this was a 5-person game, so this is going to fall pretty much on the back judge. If we have the benefit of field judge, side judge, maybe we can get some help here. The sideline is not threatened, so we can look back and maybe we can give some help to and you see the flag come in. Maybe we can give some help for the back judge. But this is by and large going to be a back judge judgment. And you can see this guy coming. He's lining up that defender. So we have to anticipate not the call, but the situation. And boom, he gets him from the side, but clearly a blind side block. All right, next clip. Now, what we're going to have here is we're going to have a kickoff return. And we've been talking about the importance of getting our umpire and our back judge in between the numbers and the hash mark. So here's a case where we get a block. And what happened was the initial block was good, but then it breaks. It's right in the middle of the field, Gregor. And what we end up doing is getting a two-hander in the back right at the point of attack. Now, I realize that the deeper this gets, the more difficult it is for the front four, the umpire, the two deep wings, and the back judge. In the center of the field, we may need to get some help from referee or a short wing, but there's our bogey. And this is a second act. This is not part of the original block, and that's a foul that we'd really like to get. Now, fortunately, this return does not go far, but it raises to our attention the importance of staying with keys, not only our keys, but in the zone, and then recognizing threats and prioritizing accordingly. The only way we're going to catch these kinds of fouls is if we stay, first of all, with our initial keys, and then we're faithful to our zone to make sure that we are not missing the forest for the trees. Okay. All right. Next clip is 38.
Just a quick question for you, Rich.
Yes.
Just for back judge and umpire, it looks like maybe the official that comes in on the left side, should you stay at the hash mark or go inside the hash mark? Looks like we got one inside the hash mark.
Yeah, I wasn't going to get into umpire mechanics. This was something that I pointed out to the crew that they can adjust fairly easily. The umpire basically took these plays on the run rather than coming in and getting to a position, getting set, and then officiating from there. The back judge did do a good job of coming up and getting stationary. He's just coming into the picture now. So yes, what we're looking for is to get in between the numbers and the hash. And of course, some of that, how far we penetrate in, is going to be dependent on what part of the field the kick goes to. So in this particular case, the kick went to the third of the field at the top of the screen. So the back judge is going to read that accordingly, as will the umpire, so that we can maintain that inside out perspective to be reviewing everything that's happening in there. Good question.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Next clip is 38, and we're not going to belabor the point, but once again, whether you're 5 or 7, back judges stay out of forward progress. All right, maybe we get excited here, but we come back and we want to take a forward progress spot. Let your short wing come down. You can even help if you have an idea what yard line to put it on. Use your 020 to communicate it, and then wait for your umpire to come down and spot the ball. We need you to finish plays. Dead ball officiating, whether it's 5 or 7, is paramount to what we need to do. So continue with your cushion, let this play settle, continue to watch players, and then, and only then, perhaps will we get involved in relaying the ball into the umpire so that he can spot the ball. Remember, all we need to do is to get the ball down between 28 and 32. And if you remember from previous programs that we've done, when the offense is going quickly, it's really easy for the back judge to be out of position because he's out-kicked his coverage, so to speak, or rushed the stage, if you prefer. We need you to stay back, do your job, and be ready for the next snap. All right. Next one should be, we already covered this mechanic, so let's go to 72. All right, now this Granville was primarily, I think you would call it a veer offense, but very, very much run oriented. So, as deep officials, it can be really easy for us to lock our knees and for our shoes to essentially be set in concrete because we're anticipating, well, it's first down or it's 3rd and 1, so I know they're going to run the ball. No, you don't. You don't know that. You have to stay in your mechanics, your pre-snap, as well as your responsibilities. We have to see this running back coming out of the backfield. We must see this developing and make sure that we get our proper depth. Now, this is a 5-person game, so we don't know how the deep wing would have handled this, but we have to be alert and not assume anything. Okay. All right, next clip. This involves pre-snap. We got too many folks out there. Now, that really go back to the very beginning of the clip. We have confusion on team B. All right. So if you start this clip over, you can see that we got subs going in and out, and they don't know how many they have. They don't know how many defensive linemen they have. Maybe they're in a nickel package where they're trying to get a linebacker out and another defensive back in, whatever the case may be. But back judge in particular, you have got to know. You have got to know how many players are in the game. And sometimes it's helter skelter. It's not really easy. It's fairly easy when you have 3 subs in and you look for 3 subs to leave. Then you double check your count and you come up with 11. But when things are going haywire, you got guys that start to the sideline and know we want you to stay in the game. And as long as they don't cross the sideline, they can go back into the game. So we've got to be very aware of that and make sure that we get a count. Now, let's say at the end of the play, you're just not sure. You had a certain number of players in the game, no one left the field. Tell the line of scrimmage people, particularly on that side of the field, to hold the players, come in and do a count. If necessary, throw a late flag. We can't play with 12 without a foul. All right. So that's what we need to do, but we have to be alert. If we're not anticipating this, we're going to be in big trouble. In 7, you've heard me say this before, the sole determiner of whether the 12th player gets off the field or not when they get outside the numbers is going to belong to the deep wing on Team B's side of the field. We don't want to see 3 flags. We want to see 1 flag, and that would be from either the field judge or the side judge that 12th person did not get off the field. Then, of course, we need to make sure that was the 12th, that it wasn't the 11th. And again, 020 can be very helpful. All right, clip 115 is really nice work with foul selection here. And again, this is a game with very skillful players. We've got action. Defensive back has some contact, but clearly the receiver is able to run a route. The pass is slightly underthrown. We stay off of that very properly. That's an incomplete pass, and the outcome that we expect on a play like this. Now, there's a little crisscross in there. So, potentially there's some picking action, but it does not appear that number 5, I believe, was impacted at all. In fact, if anything, it looks like he had contact with the receiver that he was covering. So we just need to be alert to those situations, and we're looking for obvious intent to impede on a pass where the receiver is able to make a play on the ball. We don't have catchable or uncatchable at the high school level. I understand that, but we certainly can continue to take into consideration, did the contact take something away from the receiver from making a catch? All right, should be 125. And what we want to look at here, again, we're talking 7-person primarily. So if you go back to the beginning of the clip, Gregor, can you go back to the beginning of the clip? Thank you. All right. Can you go back before the guy goes in motion? All right. So right now, the player at the top is leaving the game. So what we have by formation, we have one wide receiver to the top of the screen, and we have two to the bottom. So whether this is first half or second half, we know that the back judge is going to have the second receiver in to the bottom of the screen. But now when this player goes in motion, now we have one wide receiver on each side of the formation, and everyone else is a back. So depending on whether this is first half or second half, we need to know that the back judge is either going to stay on that side of the field or is going to transfer over to the line judge's side of the field. All right. Um, Now, since none of the receivers are pressed, I would expect that it would be easy for the back judge to make a pretty quick transition. Um, Even if you were at the bottom of the screen with your key, that you should be able to transition fairly quickly to this play that goes into the boundary at the top of the screen. Because we're going to have two active engagements out there, and you would start back judges from the inside. So the active engagement around the hash mark would be yours. And secondarily, you would have the widest one because that would be the one that would come into play later on in the sequence. And the opposite would be true for the deep wing. You would take a look at this block at the hash, but your primary bogey here is going to be the block and about the numbers. So then once we clear the block, once we've determined that it's not a foul and both players are free of foul, all right, now we can transition upfield. All right, now the block closest to the side of the line, it appears to me that the defensive back actually took the blocker down. But be it as it may, that's not the purpose of the conversation. But once the players are free of foul, then we're going to look at point of attack. So we've made determinations, no fouls there. All right, now we've got to pick up these players that are further downfield and not anticipate calls, but anticipate engagements that are going to occur. This ends up, ending fairly quickly with the runner being down. But had he stayed up, we would have needed to make decisions about those engagements at the hash mark at the top of the screen. All righty. Let's skip to 169, Gregor. All right, this is at the end. Hold it. Just a minute, Gregor. Gregor, hold it. Back it up, please. All right, we're at the end of the game, and Granville is ahead. Davison is driving, and I'll just tell you, they ended up winning the game on the second to last play of the game. All right. So this is a key play. This is a big play. And this, whether it's 5 or 7, this is a play that we got to get right. What you're going to see is the wide receiver at the top of the screen is going to come out and obviously block. There's no pass pattern that's going on here. This is clear cut, hat on hat. I'm going to block you, football. And then we're going to get a pass out here to the side zone, which line of scrimmage, we've got to determine whether this pass is at or behind the line of scrimmage or beyond. So if I'm the deep wing at the top of the screen, I know I've got a blocking action. So if I'm not certain that this pass is behind the line of scrimmage, I'm going to throw my flag. I'm going to throw my flag, and then I'm going to come in when this play is over, and I'm going to say to my line of scrimmage guy, was that pass touched behind the line? And line of scrimmage people, this is one of those plays. This is a staple for you. You've got to know every time whether that pass crosses the line or not. So what I need from you as a deep wing is for you to say, the pass was touched at or behind the line. Okay. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the referee and I'm going to say, all right, I'm picking up my flag for OPI. The pass was touched behind the line. Referee flips on the mic and says there's no foul for offensive pass interference. The pass was touched behind the line. Now, what is discernible beyond the line? We're not going to get out and, we're not going to have our surveying rods and all that other stuff out there. What we need is a situation where line of scrimmage, and it's touching now, it's not possession. So it's where the ball is touched. And if we're going to rule that this pass crosses the line, it's got to be discernibly obvious that it did. Here, this is a correct call for the pass being touched at or near the line of scrimmage, but it's close. So that's how we handle that. All right, clip 32, different game. What we're going to get is a pass up to the side. You're going to see the safety come over, and he's going to come in on this guy. So the decision we've got to make is A, is it a late hit? B, is it targeting? C, is it just a late, a simple UNR? So you get three choices: no call, UNR for piling on, or targeting. So we're not going to have a discernible view. We're not going to have a kill shot, so to speak, to be able to say definitively that it didn't. It appears to me that the helmet was not involved. There may have been some contact with the receiver slash runner's helmet. And I know that targeting is slightly different at the federation level than it is at the college level. This looks like to me something that we can play through, because it doesn't appear that there's a safety issue for this player going to the ground. This would be a good conversation with number two to say, first of all, make sure you keep your helmet up. And secondly, make sure that you're not piling on here. All right. Now you're going to get some gas from the sideline at the top, which is the offense, because they're going to want a foul for either piling on unnecessary roughness or even a targeting foul. So line of scrimmage people, maybe deep wing, you may have to do some counseling over here in terms of what took place. All right. We don't have a review process. The review process are the 5 or the 7 people on the field. And if you have a targeting foul down, would expect that there would be 2 to 3 people that would come together to discuss this, to really talk it through to make sure that we're coming to the best conclusion that we possibly can. And this would be a time where if you have definitive information, whether you the back judge, the deep wing, the short wing, the umpire, whoever happens to be, to come in and say, wait a minute, that helmet, and that helmet went to the side. There's very little contact with this guy. We need to pick this one up. That's good crew work. All right, next clip. What we're going to get is we're going to get a long return on this kickoff. Now, again, this is a 5-person game, so we have to imagine that we have deep wings in the game, but it's worth it based on what you're going to see here. All right, so if we have field judge, side judge, my expectation would be that the field judge, side judge would be well ahead of this so that we are stationary at the goal line. Now, like running plays, oftentimes we have to make transition blocking decisions, both the back judge and the deep wing, as well as the short wing coming along the sideline. So here we've got 2 blocks that occur downfield that eventually spring this to go all the way for a score. We have to see these blocks coming. It's too late for us when we have the contact or we have somebody on the ground. That's the value of having a cushion and working with your shoulders square to the sideline so that you're able to look back and see these things coming. There's the first block that looks to me like the kicking team member turns his back. We're not following that. And if we get some gas on it, what we simply say is, Coach, he saw the block coming, he turned into it, that's why it was in the back. And they won't like that, but that's the way it is. All right. Now, the second block, the first block probably needs to be picked up by the deep wing, but this block that's about the numbers, that's one that we're probably going to need to get from our back judge. That looks like a side block. So the question would be, is it blind side? Um, I don't think so. Without an end zone view, it's pretty hard. But the key to this play is that we need to stay ahead of plays with cushions so that we can see through players and know exactly what's coming and then what happens. All right. All right. This last clip um, is going to be again, 5-person game. This is a big play in this game. Now, you can see the back judge leaves the goal line because he can tell that the goal line is not threatened. So whether you're in 5 or 7, you're going to come off the goal line and get some depth. So back judge does a really nice job here. Now, he can't help with the sideline. He can help, does the receiver survive the ground, that sort of thing. But he's really not in a position where he can say definitively that the feet are in bounds. This is where the short wing has to come down. There's collaboration between the two. Feet were in, survive the ground. We ring it up as a score. If we have the deep wing in there, would expect that the deep wing would be pretty much where the person is in the white jacket, goal line extended, and would be in perfect position to make that decision in terms of feet, surviving the ground, etc. So something to learn from. These guys handled this as well as you possibly can in 5. So good for them. All right, let's transition now to our last group for the evening. And these clips will come from Chelsea and they'll come from Pinckney. Actually, ironically, uh, 2 districts that are pretty close to each other. So this first clip is going to be a kickoff return that's going to come to the bottom of the screen. So the first thing we need to look at is, all right, we wait for the players to crosses, and you can see the deep wings do not move from their initial restraining line. Based on the depth of the kick, that was correct mechanics. However, if we run this back, we don't get started quickly enough. Either that or we misjudge the speed of this kick returner. So when we get to right about boom, now we got to get on our horse. Now I'm thinking that maybe the deep wing was looking at some blocks. This is where we have to multitask. We have to look at those blocks, and at the same time, we need to know where that kick returner is. The other thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that we're in our scissor stance so that the first thing we have to do is not to turn to start that movement. If our feet are already in the scissors, all we have to do is to make a quick jab step, and we're on our way to committing to our cushion. So we get started too quickly or not soon enough, and then we don't really make a full commitment to it. Now, fortunately, the um, the other players caught up to him, and we were able to get some more depth because, as you can see, we end up with a fumble down around the goal line. So now all of a sudden we got to deal with fumble rules. Forward fumble out of bounds. If this is touched by a player who's out of bounds, what's the status of the ball, et cetera, et cetera. So there are a number of things that we need to do. Once again, reinforcing the importance of our cushion to make sure that we have the time and distance, with distance being our friend, to see A, what happens, and then B, make a ruling accordingly. All right, next clip. This is going to be a punt return. And we're going to get 2 views of this. Pretty standard stuff. You can see the Flyers are defended, nothing really going on. They get caught up inside and they lose the corner. Blocks look okay. We stay behind it. Now, our deep wing comes up and is prepared to take the spot. Our short wing comes up too quickly. It does not appear to me that we have anything that is that important for the short wing to come up. He needs to maintain his cushion and do the opposite of what we do on every play in terms of cleanup. So there's a teaching point for this short wing. Now, the other thing that I would point out here, watch the back judge as this play is ending. Look at all of the opposite jersey colors that we have going into the bench. And we're going back to get our beanbag. We will get the beanbag. We will get the beanbag. And if necessary, the referee will hold the snap until we get in position, hold it ready for play so that we don't play with the back judge out of position. But we have to finish plays. And when you have that many people with opposite jersey colors, you have to expect that you may have a problem. See, there are players from behind with opposite jersey colors that the short wing should have been aware of. Stay out of forward progress. If you're the deep wing on regular plays, and if you're the short wing on reverse mechanics and punt plays like this, until you get to the 2 yard line. All right, next clip. Dead ball prioritization. We've talked about this concept during the summer. What we need to do is need to make decisions in terms of um, do we have a potentially dangerous situation for someone or unsporting? Now, here, our deep wing comes up really, really hard. Now, initially, I can understand why we do that because you've got a couple people around the tackle, goes down out of bounds. What you want to do is as soon as you realize that no, there isn't a problem, then what you need to do is to come to a stop. Don't come all the way to players when there's nothing to do for them. There's nothing to prevent here. So, all right, you step up maybe a step or two, you move up, but as soon as they separate, stop right there. See, we come all the way up there like we're going to take the spot or we want to get the ball from the receiver slash runner. We'll get the ball. Forget about that. Do your job in terms of finishing plays. Now, what we're going to get is we're going to get a good no call out here on this widest player at about the number 12. Now, you're probably looking at that going, his hands are outside the number. He's got a lot of shirt, all of that. But the leverage that he maintains during this play overrides the fact that the block is not pristine. Okay. Lines him up, probably has a little jersey, but you can see he's just got him walled off. That's hat on hat, and that's not a foul that we want called. Now, if that defensive back is struggling and is on the verge of getting out of that block, and he continues to stay on him, then by all means, yeah, we might well have a foul. All right, next one is going to be a good foul selection here for something that's going to go out of bounds at the bottom of the screen. Pretty typical play. All right. Now, good with that. Now, the last guy just kind of gives him a little chunk on the back. All right. If you dial that up and call it UNR, probably you're technically right. But this is early in the game. We have not had any issues that we have to deal with. Just come up and talk to the young man and say, when the guy's out of bounds, let him go. But this lacks the intensity of a UNR that we want called. All right, the next one is going to be a blocked extra point. So you're probably thinking, Rich, why are you showing us a block extra point? Well, a couple things here. First of all, if you count up the number of players on defense, go back to the line of scrimmage. Where is the strength of the formation for Team B? The answer that you should give me is to the bottom of the screen. Where do we have the umpire? We have the umpire on the strength of the formation. The side judge is on the weak side of Team B's formation. So here, the two officials should be flip-flop. Why do we do that? Because we want the side judge looking for pull and shoot. Now, you can have a pull. If you don't have a shoot, you don't have a foul. But if one player is able to, defensive player is able to pull someone out of the hole to allow a teammate to come through, that's known as pull and shoot. or defensive holding, and that's a foul we want called. So we start out mechanically incorrect. We need to make sure that we put the side judge on the strong side of the formation. Now, how you do that, side judges, you come up, and we're going to get to a clip in a minute. I want to show you that the crew did really, really well with um, in terms of getting ready for a PAT. But come up there fairly close to the umpire and watch for the players to get situated. And then at the last minute, umpires, you go in front of the side judge, and the side judge goes behind the umpire if necessary to get where you need to go. All right, now the last piece is by federation rules, when it's obvious the kick will not be successful, the play is dead. All right, so let's make this a field goal attempt instead of a PAT. This is a live ball. This is a scrimmage kick. It's a scoring kick. So therefore, the rules are completely different. So when you have a field goal in your game, you need to pass it around the horn. Hey, scrimmage kick, scoring kick, whatever you want to say, you need to alert everyone that we're not going to shut this down when it's obvious that the kick is not successful. We're going to let them play. So if the ball stays behind the neutral zone, we know either team can advance, and however that turns out is the way it turns out. If the ball gets beyond the line of scrimmage and it's first touched by the kicking team, that's first touching, doesn't mean that the play is over. Team B can, it's like a punt, all right? So you treat it like a punt, but we need to know those situations so that we're prepared to handle them. All right, it should be clip 17. Now the first play we looked at was we had a good cushion, but we were too close to the pylon. Here's a case where we have our deep wing come up and take a spot. Now, this may have been a sub on the crew. This may be someone that doesn't regularly work deep wing, but we need to attend to the players that are out of bounds. Now, here the benches weren't involved, so we didn't have to consider that, but we do need to make sure that we take care of these players, that we bring both players back to the field, particularly the player that's not his sideline. And we may be prepared, should be prepared to give a suggestion as far as what yard line to put the ball on. But that's something that needs to be handled by the short wing. Okay. So stay out of forward progress until it gets inside the two. All right. Number 30. Goal line coordination. This is something that in 7, your short wing and your deep wing should talk about regularly, not saying every week, but here we've got a play that ends somewhere around the 1 yard line. Everyone on the call should know in 7, this spot belongs to the deep wing. So what should happen here, first of all, before we ever get a snap, that situation over to the side was handled by the referee, no problem. But before every snap, it should be my goal line, and then the other part should be you got it outside of the 2, or I've got it at the 2 or in, so that every play you're reminding each other what's going to happen in a given situation. Here, what should have happened is that our short wing should have stopped at the 5 yard line and really concentrated on dead ball officiating with those big linemen. Instead, what he does is he comes down, steps in front of the deep wing, whose spot it belongs to, and essentially blocks the deep wing out of being able to see anything but this guy's back. So we need to work that out. That needs to be straightened out and handled consistently on both sides of the field. All right, should be 92. This is the play that I talked about earlier. Now, notice if you go back to the beginning of the clip, you're at the end of the clip, Gregor, so go back to the beginning. Now, what's happened here is that now you still need to go back further. All right. So what's happened here, you can see the deep wing is back near the pylon. All right. Now, they have shifted and they are now preparing to get into PAT formation. What have we said is the key? The key is that the kicker and the holder are in position to make a place kick. So until um, until the holder really is down, we don't have people prepared to attempt a scrimmage kick or a scoring kick, have not seen a drop kick in quite some time. So they wait until the holder is in position, and then they have plenty of time to get into position to rule and to make their proper mechanics on this play. So the field judge is at the top of the screen. He comes in, and we get that squared away with the back judge, and then the side judge comes in from the side, and now we have double umpire in there. Really well handled by the crew. This is what we need to do. We don't need to hurry into that PAT formation, that 1 point formation. Stay cool, read it, and then with your 0-2-0 or whatever, then go ahead and make that affirmative move that yes, the kicker and holder are in position to kick. It'll help with muddle huddle a great deal. All right. 97. We're going to have action that's going, this is on a punt, and what we're going to have is a foul fairly close to the line of scrimmage. One of these protectors gets locked up with a player of the receiving team, and what's going to let it go. And what's going to happen is there's going to be a throwdown. Now, keep in mind, the ball is still live. All this is going on during a live ball period. All right, it just ended. All right. So what the referee had was holding, takedown, a throwdown, uh, proper call. The question was, should that be a UNR rather than a holding foul? And what it amounts to is, when does the foul occur? See, he's in the process of throwing him down. So if the runner is still up, if action is still live, then this would be a live ball, and uh, by rights, we would have to make it a live ball. We couldn't call it dead ball if the action was still going on. So it'd have to be enforced as a live ball foul. Or if it's dead, then we need a UNR. But if you let this run, what the referee does a nice job of is, first of all, staying with the players and getting this straightened out, making sure that nothing else happens. He's talking with them, gets them split up. Now he wants to talk with them. So we have some conversation there about probably, hey, let's play football. But now he does the next thing that's really, really important, because he's called a foul on team A. All right. He's going to go over there to the head coach. He's going to explain what he had. Now, don't worry if the fouling player doesn't want to go with you. Don't make an issue out of that. Just simply go over there and explain to the coach what happened and the help that you need from him on that given play. So this is really well handled, and it could be handled in a similar way by other officials on the field. Next clip. All right, let's go to 120, because that's a repeat of another concept that we talked about. Back judge, we need to get you to the end line. All right, so again, this is a 7-person game. We're snapping from the 26-yard line. Our deep wing is at the 5. I'm fine with that. He moves to the goal line. Now we get the pass that obviously is not going to threaten the goal line. And even if it is, we know that we have the deep wings. This is a difference between 5 and 7, that back judges, you have the latitude, knowing that you've got 2 officials right on the goal line if something happens there that we need a ruling. What we need you to do is we need to get you back to the end line in the event that the pass is muffed, batted, what have you, that we are on the end line prepared to make a decision as to the status of the ball. All right. Let's skip to 126. I want to once again emphasize the importance of working from the back edge of the white, or what would be the white. You can see here that we're right on the sideline, all right? And we need to have you that 6 foot belt off of the sideline for your safety, as well as helping with covering these plays. Okay, 128. All right, what we're going to have here is an ineligible downfield alert. See the player that is blocking down there, that between the 5 and the 10. This eventually ends up with a UNR penalty on the defense. But clearly that offensive lineman is driving his opponent more than 2 yards downfield. So the key is, when is the pass released? Where is the ineligible lineman at the time that the pass is released? Now, who's going to get that? Mechanically, the person, the opposite short wing. So it would be the short wing at the bottom of the screen, because this play is going to go towards the sideline at the top. He needs to look downfield. He needs to know where that 2 yard belt is going to terminate, where if you're beyond that, you're subject to foul if the pass crosses the line. And then secondarily, the umpire would have a good shot at ineligibles downfield. Here we missed it. This ineligible is clearly downfield. I wouldn't call this OPI, because the pass is not going into the immediate area where he is blocking. But under different circumstances, like if there was some sort of a short pattern behind the linebackers, this could also be OPI. We have to be alert for ineligibles downfield. All right, 131. We couldn't have a study group meeting without a short kick situation. Now, this is fairly obvious. It's pretty mundane. That might have been a UNR at the end of the play. But the key is that we have a pretty clear recovery by Team B. And we won't get into whether this is a UNR foul or not. The purpose why this clip is in here is something that I realized that we'd not previously talked about. And that is, we know that Team A is not eligible to block until they're eligible to touch the ball. So one of two things has to happen for them to be able to be eligible. Either Team B needs to come up and field the ball before it gets to the restraining line, or the ball has to pass the restraining line. But as you can see in this formation, the front group of players for Team B, their intent is not to recover the ball. Their intent is to block Team A players coming down, so that the next line will be able to recover the ball, which they ultimately do. Okay. So if a player on Team B is in blocking mode, or maybe a better way to say it, if that player is not intent on potentially recovering the ball, we're going to treat them as a blocker, and therefore we're not going to give them special protection, because they are not attempting to recover the ball. So that front line, that contact, if anything, is initiated by them, and certainly is not a foul. Now, if that front line is trying to recover the ball actively, trying to come over and fall on the ball, and they get blocked before it goes 10 yards, yeah, now we got a foul. So hopefully that distinction is there, and we do get the flag down, I believe, for a UNR on the Team B player pushing a player over the pile, an opponent over the pile. All right, a couple more we're going to call it a night.
Hey, Rich, real quick.
Yes.
Quick question. Can you comment? Do you think this would be qualified as a pop-up kick, where you shut it down right away,
It's
or driving in the ground?
it's close, but if you watch the players, none of them have to look up to see the ball. And
Thank you.
that's really what we're shooting for here. What we're trying to do is to protect the player that looks up to field the ball and get smacked. All right. So in this particular case, I would say this is a legal kick, or we would interpret it to be a legal kick because no one has to look up to field the ball. Good question. All right, just a real quick tip here. Notice our deep three. Two of us have turned our backs on the players in the line of scrimmage. Back judge was backing up. Those of you who officiate basketball know that a principle of dead ball officiating is that you don't turn your backs on players. So if you're walking to or if you're moving to a different position and players are in front of you, you're backing up as opposed to turning your back. Similar situation here. Avoid turning your back on the line of scrimmage and players, particularly opponents. All right. All right, next clip. What we're going to get here is a good decision as far as passing on DPI. We've got double team over here, and all three are looking back at the ball. Now, maybe the screen is too small for you, but clearly we've got players all looking back at the ball, and there may be some contact here, but it's with everyone having equal rights to the ball. So a good decision by back judge and deep wing to pass. All right, let's finish up with number 70, Gregor. All right, stop it. What? All right, go back. A principle of OPI is that when blocks occur in the same third of the field, we recognize them as being material in terms of the player being blocked and not being able to participate in defending against the pass. And what you can see is we're going to end up with a pass pattern that goes towards the top third of the field. And you can see that this player from the offense comes out more towards the middle of the field and just absolutely face plants this guy. Now, this is a foul for OPI because A, there's contact, it's visible, it's material, and it certainly takes something away from this defender's ability to play the ball, as well as a safety, and it's in generally the same third of the field where the block occurs. So this is a foul that we would want for OPI, and you would report it that way in your foul report, that number, whatever that is, let's say it's number 5, aggressively blocked a defensive player in the vicinity of where the pass was thrown. That would be a correct call for OPI. All right, any questions? Those are the clips. Thank you to those that submitted clips. We continue to get good participation with people giving us plays either they have seen, heard about, or have encountered in their own games. We want to continue to do that. Once again, just a reminder, moving forward, what you're going to do is send me an email, give me the week, the opponents, the clip number, and a brief description of what happened. Then I will go into that respective group, find the clip, review it, and then make determinations how it fits in with other things that we have for a respective meeting that next week. With Mondays, that's a quick turnaround, understand that, but it's just, we're stuck with Mondays pretty much. I don't want to go later into the week, like a Thursday night, it's too late. Anything you learn or pick up from this, it's going to be hard for you to share with your crew and really do a good job being able to apply it the next week. So we're pretty well stuck on Mondays, and hopefully the recordings will be helpful to you. Rest assured that if you have a question that isn't addressed from the group, by all means, feel free to call me. Hopefully everyone knows that number. It's pretty simple, 517 area code 740, and then RICH on your dial, 7424. So feel free to call. We'll try to help you over the telephone and make things better for you, get your question answered, and go from there. So have great games this week. We should be now into the conference season pretty much with week 3. We should be continuing to advance and improve in terms of our individual and our crew mechanics. Having 2 weeks down now, we should be hitting mid-season 4 in terms of everything related to what we do out in the field. Communication, mechanics, all those sorts of things that we've talked about all summer in the first 2 weeks of our reviews. So have great games this week. Send me interesting clips that we can share with everyone. We can all learn from. So with that, have a great evening. Good luck. Travel safely.